Yeah, I love them.
So let's give a warm round of applause to Richard and Steve.
I want to ask, yeah, I'm gonna ask questions. You go
And
ahead.
before you do anything,
Yeah.
Steve, can I just ask, is it okay for you to touch Gideon's?
I don't want to touch Gideon's mouth.
Oh, okay, all right, so I didn't want to.
Good thing I didn't show up. That would have been, oh, we wouldn't have been able to take the night back, guys. That would have driven us right off the cliff.
So I think that I kind of organized tonight, and then of course immediately took on a life of its own. I tend to wander into things and not know what I'm doing, and that's, you know, I've had good luck with that at times. And so this kind of started getting
You
serious.
can touch his card.
I kind of spotted Steve giving well, I didn't even know if I thought that Steve was giving a tarot reading. There were tarot cards and he was there, and people were laughing and they were kind of having a good time talking about stuff. And I just was drawn in and then realized, so I just asked him, I said, are you giving tarot? He's like, yeah, come in and have one. And so we started talking, and I am working towards becoming a therapist. I'm in school for that now. Steve is a therapist. We both have interest in I think, you know, during our conversations, we both have interest in anything that kind of sparks an individual's creativity and really gives people agency and insight into their lives. And one of the things that I think during one of our conversations, we talked about, you know, actually just like, you know, instead of giving somebody a reading, give them a deck. You know, like that felt like the most empowering thing. So one of the things that that I feel I've gained from the tarot is that it was always very hard for me to gain any kind of connection to my own spirituality, and also I kind of have always carried this this personal journey of always wanting to be acceptable or to find what's being requested of me, what's being required of me, and try to fulfill that to get like acceptance and get my needs met. And on a level, that's not crazy, but on the level that I have kind of done it, it is kind of crazy. So there's a little bit of, you know, like kind of dysfunction in my life around that. And one of the things that I found with tarot was that the imagery inspired me, and that the experience of looking at these images somehow resonated either with experiences that I'd had or with experiences that I've never had. And it was really surprising to me, the experience. And so, you know, one of the things that I've read about is Carl Jung's journey through spiritual practice, and how that one of the things that he said was that he was developing a visual language which related to his own subconscious, like how to connect and navigate within his own subconscious through imagery. And that felt really empowering. And I think that I'll just kind of end with this, and we'll go off into whatever direction this takes. But one of the reasons I've always felt a resistance to astrology, and now I'm kind of coming around to it. I kind of see some of the magic of it, but I always felt like astrology was trying to tell me who I was. And what was, you know, what the thing that was going to happen was, and because of it a certain time, and these types of things. And so I was resistant to it. And I think that's because I didn't really understand it. Whereas the tarot kind of gave me this, I could kind of play around with the imagery and I could kind of find my own way and interpret my own stuff. How I found access to tarot, I feel like it's really unfair to say it, to leave this out, is that I think that my bigger experience with tarot was that there's all this stuff going on that, like these forces that I have no idea what's going on. And so really sort of like internalizing what's going on as having something to do directly with me is like a problem for me. Whereas, you know, opening up to like, I don't really have to understand what's going on is freeing. And that actually matches with some of my experience with the tarot. I spoke very briefly to Gideon and looked at his deck and was blown away. And then just his presence was really cool. I was like really moved by just being around him. And Steve and I just did one of those things where we just started talking and we became just really activated and excited. And just went off on talking. So however you guys want to do this, do it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stand aside.
Why is everyone the kids inside?
Do you want me to?
I guess we're still do a reading for reading. Anybody wants to stand up and doesn't mind having like, you know,
A volunteer
stuff aired and they're reading for it.
Okay. Well, I mean, does anybody else?
Anybody else?
I'll do it.
All right.
All right.
Yeah.
Here.
Volunteer, I think they're like, I'm one of these two.
I'm gonna grab something to eat really.
So, you're gonna go get you who don't know. I can't wait to see. I've been doing tarot for about 7 years old. It's coming maybe a little bit longer, you might say. I was when I was 6, I got into the habit of snagging my dad's tarot deck off his altar. And that I think spurred him to give me my own, so I stopped doing that. Not that he was ever able to like be convincingly upset about it. But you know. And so I've been doing tarot for a long time. I got this deck, it's called the Carnival at the End of the World. I got this for helping a friend cast it. It's got 6 extra cards in it, which are the normal tarot decks. In a number of tarot decks, especially since the Thoth deck by Lady Frida Harris and Alistair Crowley. A lot of tarot decks incorporate what's called a chaos card, which shows potential blind spots in the deck. So what I have people do, rather than have them shuffle their deck, is to have them choose one of these cards and use that as the chaos card. So please come forward and choose one of these 6 cards to be your guide through the reading.
Okay, I will choose the Inferno.
I'm gonna show the Inferno.
Choice. Wow. The Inferno. It's like. You can do the soundboard.
Little like firecracker.
Yeah.
The Inferno. Watch. Do like professional wrestling, this professional tarot reading. Everybody like comes in with like, you know, fireworks and confetti.
That's great.
And then walks in and it's like.
I want to be an announcer.
Oh,
God.
That was a little big name some of my friends had for me.
Oh, that's great.
Swiss Army Shaman.
Can you describe the layout you're fixing to do?
I'm gonna be doing what is pretty much an expanded past, present, and future. I do 3 cards right down the middle of the present. And then I do 3 cards for each of the past and the future. Usually I do 2 cards for the near past each and for the near future, and 1 card for the more distant parts. So like as the more focused closer we are to it, you know, that's the more useful it is for information density. And a lot of the times I'll add extra cards and pull them out for added context or because I'm curious. But it's my basic just diamond past, present, future reading. Works really well on the size of the thought that I have. A good layout, help you know, express what's going on with the right amount of informational density. Alright. So usually the way I'll do this, you see I actually pulled out 2 extra cards already. Just because they felt like they're right. I have really kind of a hard time expressing why I pick which card from the middle of the deck when it's just what my dad taught me how to do is just feel out the proper edge of the card. If you bring the camera up higher, you'll probably get a better view of what the layout looks like.
You wanna look at the green? Yeah.
Yeah. So starting with the present, your crowning card in your present is the King of Cups, and this is one of the face cards, which makes the body is like the archetype you're probably embodying most people. The King of Cups is probably the most masterful card in the tarot at emotional control and at directing the flow of their own emotions. Which means that because they're very good at directing their emotions, they sometimes have a hard time understanding where the forces that push their emotions other than themselves are coming from. So because they've got enough control, they don't have as much sensitivity to their own emotional landscape. If that makes any sense. Because it's too busy defining it and to analyze it. And that kind of archetype is being held up by the Nine of Wands. The Nine of Wands is about sort of keeping yourself in a maintainable but often somewhat difficult heightened energy state by sort of leveraging both your energetic resources like your spiritual resources like your extra wells of energy which help inform things like your intuition and your ability to push yourself when you need extra energy for something which you don't have your normal energy for, and your social resources and usual just the safety net of those people who care about you and are able to help maintain a heightened energy state. And it looks like that heightened energy state is also built on a pretty strong material foundation. There's a lot in this reading about like the support system and the people around you helping you through your recent journeys. In fact, I'm going to bring it back to the beginning of the narrative, and it looks like you recently come into a really strong partnership. You've got both the Lovers and the Two of Cups next to each other, which has led to essentially the way in which the Ace of Swords is supporting the Two of Cups, which has led to and supported by a strong new idea and bring your life through like logical reasoning, rather than through necessarily like an emotional outburst or intuitive reasoning. Anyways, this has led to the current situation I was just describing, and is going to, through the current situation, lead to, looks like you're entering into a situation where you're being put not quite in the middle of a conflict, but in a position where you have to actively keep yourself out of the middle of an external conflict. And this leads to a greater level of sort of focus on emotional self-defense in the archetype of the Page of Cups. In this deck, the Page of Cups is armored in a stack of teacups and is like got his face obscured by ice and is standing barefoot on the iceberg. Which kind of represents how the pages in general, especially the Page of Cups, are kind of adrift from the sea of their emotions. So it's sort of representing letting go of the control over your emotions and keeping your walls up so that you can understand your emotional landscape outside of your control over your emotional landscape without having to necessarily express it to the outside world. And that moves forward into our, I believe, the second major arcana. So the major arcana are cards which act as kind of like nails for the tapestry of the reading. Everything else tends to be a little bit more fluid and a little bit flowy, but the major arcana tend to be very solid. So then in your future period of emotional armoring and keeping back some of your opinions in order to avoid getting caught in the middle of the growing conflict leads to some self-reflection, probably on periods of time when you did that in the past. But that this reflection doesn't just like stay within yourself, and every time you express anything from that reflection, it seems that it will cause changes in the behaviors of people around you, as evidenced by the Empress. The Empress being pretty much the master of influence rather than direct control. So her suggestions get carefully listened to and carried out to the greatest extent that people can imagine, you know. Based on her suggestions, rather than her direct trying to command the situation. If she ends up having to command a situation, it means things aren't going right. People start to freak out a little bit. And this will actually lead to you going into kind of a deeper stasis period and refining probably the point of inspiration from the recent past. As evidenced by the Six of Swords, which is about sort of taking ideas you've been working with recently and setting them sort of aside so you can observe them and allow them to ripen and refine themselves. Is a good way of explaining it. In this deck, it's represented by a mummified humanoid with maybe a very long face crossing the boat, which really brings to mind the image of the boatman crossing the river Styx, carrying all the ideas with him. So moving the ideas from an old paradigm into a new paradigm will maintain the spirit of the ideas. And that's your reading. That would be 11 cards. And if you'd like to, you're more than welcome to take a picture of it. I mean, you know, the video on it already.
Awesome.
Yeah, you guys would like to explain kind of how the layout of the information matrix present in the tarot works, because tarot doesn't work because it's special among divination systems. All divination systems tend to work on a logical series of pretty much on the logical series of overlapping system points of logic. Yeah.
I'm kind of more curious about when you're doing a reading, and either of you can answer this, or maybe even any of the three of you can answer this. When you're doing a reading, what is your relationship to the person that you're reading, and what is your relationship to the divine inspiration that you're getting the messages from, or that you're receiving things from?
The way I've always looked at it is, so the
Or I can repeat or refine.
yeah, I get what you're saying. So the tradition which I was raised with, tarot cards are thought of as a conscious entity, and you're supposed to treat them like that. You know, they need different things than a living thing would. But just because it's not alive doesn't mean it doesn't have its own sort of ability to interact with like the fabric of reality, the stuff that everything is made out of. So the way I feel about it is anytime you try to recreate any point of information on a smaller scale using a semi-randomized system of information with a formalized system of interpretation, you're going to get a pretty accurate information set. Just because the universe doesn't like disorder, at least not in it likes what humans might perceive as disorder, but everything works on sets of fractal patterns. The Mandelbrot set isn't something humans created, it's inherent. You know what I mean?
I do. It's a debate among mathematicians. Is mathematics invented or is it discovered?
Yeah, but whichever set of mathematics we use, you can still make a Mandelbrot set.
Yeah, interesting question.
So it's both invented and discovered. Our interpretation of it is invented, but the expressions which we're interpreting are something we're discovering. Just like the tarot cards themselves were invented. It was originally a playing card game, but people realized that it matched up with a pretty old system of interpretation, the ancient Kabbalistic tree of life. And through modification and systems of formalized interpretation, it's turned into a system of divination today. I can actually do a quick. This is why I brought my
The map.
Yeah, let me draw the quick map on how it's kind of laid out. So just like with a normal set of playing cards, tarot has 10 suits, and it's got face cards, the pip cards, and then it's got a couple of cards which are not either face cards or pip cards. Those are called the major arcana. And those represent they're like the fool in a normal deck of cards, except that there are 22 different ones, or 23, depending on your opinion on chaos cards. So the main cards do big old diagram. I apologize, it's kind of sloppy, because the spheres will all be about the same size. But this is a rough work of. It's kind of a rough work of the Kabbalistic tree of life here. One, two, 17, 18, 19, no, I'm forgetting something. I'm gonna have to actually look up a diagram. I can't remember where every single 22 lines goes.
Yeah, it's okay.
Oh no, it's the end of the world.
No, you can really.
Not a.
So, you're saying this could actually influence the structure of the universe.
It's just like I'm just constructing a badly put together map right now.
I like how there's like university professors who would be like, oh, whatever, I'll just make that nobody will know. And then he's like, I need to look it up.
Yeah, I just had to double check like where some numbers go.
Okay.
And I'm not gonna try to remember all the Hebrew or anything. I had to actually just remember these two lines the one together. Put the evens on the wrong side and on the other side.
Steve, are you formulating?
Oh, I'm loving the ride. I bought the ticket. This is great.
9.
I'll be expecting.
So this is supposed to describe like originally the whole God's creative process. I'm not going to try to explain the whole diagram right now because people go to college for years sometimes to explain the whole diagram. There's actually like Kabbalah degrees they give at Jewish universities and stuff specifically for understanding this diagram completely. But each of the 10 pip cards in the tarot deck represents an elemental aspect of one of these 10 circles. These 10 circles represent all 10 layers of like all different aspects of reality pretty much. You can pretty easily match up to the chakra system if you just line it up with each layer. You can see that sometimes different chakral points will have 2 Sephiroth on them because they're the merciful and the severe aspects of the same concept. You can see, you can see the crown, third eye, throat, etc. down. I'm not explaining this all that well. But every single one represents like the starting point of any journey in that realm. The earth refers to the material realm, that's the pentacles. Water or cups refers to the emotional realm. Air or swords refers to the mental and logical realm. And then fire or wands refers to the intuitive or spiritual realm. So the four aspects of the human experience. And they each represent one of the different points on this. One thing which I forgot to mention while constructing this diagram is that each of these like rows represents itself a different layer of or a different polarity of the human experience as well. This is the pillar of mercy, which is about like things which tend to be more yielding to human experience, if that makes any sense. It's not about things that are nice necessarily, but about things that are yielding. And then, so this entire pillar is the pillar of mercy. This pillar is the pillar of severity, which is about things that are unyielding to human will. And then the middle pillar is about things which have about the same level of yieldingness as human will, if that makes any sense at all. Sure. And then you can also separate it into 3 rough circles. Like so, like so, two big overlapping ones, and then like. So, which when talking about this as a map, refer to different levels which humans can actually, traverse in the occult sense. In the lore says that the material universe is down here at 10, and that most dreams happen in these 4 spheres, but mostly in 9 here. And each of these little lines between the spheres is one of the major arcana. They represent the pathways between the Sephiroths.
There's a question.
The
Yes.
10 being like our waking state, like the Maya.
Yeah, the entire physical universe.
Yeah.
Yeah, the entire physical material universe, not having to do with the human experience of the universe. You could say that like
So
every thought you have exists in number 9 right here. But, and your interpretation of the material universe happens in 9. But that everything that you're interpreting from happens down here in 10.
Okay. Okay.
Are there any other questions? Yes.
Is it, can you go down any further? Like, in other words, is there any like periodicity to this, or is it like Pascal's triangle where you can like add?
He was like, can you go down any further in this? Is this?
In other words, can you add more numbers to the bottom of it and make it like a pyramid that keeps going?
Is there another dimension below 10? Is like
I don't think so, but that's a really good question. In fact, a lot of systems, one thing about how
You got 1, 3, 5, 8. It could be like the Fibonacci series.
We are talking about God's creative process, so maybe
if there is any dimensions beyond 10 that haven't been made yet, but this is about like, this is also about like density. So 10 is where you've got the most material and the least energy.
I'm waiting on that new universe.
Yeah, drop it on the new universe, please, and you want to work out of the entirety. But like a lot of people who talk about this kind of thing outside of the traditional layout will actually flip the diagram because it makes a lot more sense for things to come from 1, because things grow out from 1 towards 10. So it's not that there's only 1 10, but if you took this and kind of blurred it so each time you have one of these Sephiroths, all the other ones connecting it, there was multiple copies of them. That would make a more accurate version, and that's actually what the flower of life symbol is said to represent when some like sacred geometry symbols. So it's not that there's a whole bunch of different 10s and they're constantly splitting up. Like with like the whole quantum mechanics thing.
yeah.
At least that's what some of the theory is these days. None of what I said is like, obviously it's all this is all just based on like various occult writings and interpretations of them and modernizations of them, different permutations over years.
Can you categorize or name the 3 different circles that you drew?
Oh, so this is the realm, this bottom circle here is the realm of the human experience. So anything that humans normally experience happens here. This is the realm which, like, the circle, the central circle, which the spirits that humans are normally capable of interacting with can traverse, right? And they're in theories. So that's like the realm of spiritual experience. And up here, everything which is in the very top circle is where the realm of like fundamental archetypes can traverse in theory. But humans usually can't go anywhere outside of this bottom section, numbers 6 through 10. At least not like you can. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Can I ask maybe a rudimentary question?
Oh, totally.
The numbers themselves denote the numbers on the card that you're talking about. So when
Yes.
you're relating the number, you're relating to, like, you were talking about the different
Yeah.
aspects of 3, 5, 8, 2, 4, 7. Okay, I want to make sure I was.
Yes, that's correct. So like every single one of the aces has to do with this sphere here.
Tell me about that.
That's supposed to be where like things are supposed to emanate from in the first place. So that would be like the point before time would be able to function on the Big Bang Theory model.
Right,
It's the eternal source of all things, the idea.
the great seed.
Yeah,
Yes.
and actually there's supposed to be some bigger circles around it, which
Yeah.
represent more abstract with layers of it.
This is
like before being able to emerge into an even roughly material thing, but like there's the Einar salt and Einar, the things which I can butcher by trying to explain them. There's more studies around that one. It's supposed to be like in the realm of higher states of the Godhead, which are increasingly incomprehensible to us. But I'm not a Kabbalistic scholar. It's just stuff I've been exposed to from a young age.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
I was gonna say we only have about 5 or 10 minutes left.
Okay.
So I want to make sure that Martin has, I think Martin has the sign up sheet. And I want to make sure people have been given a chance to sign up if they're here for the open mic. Just for pretty even time.
So Steve, I just checked in with Eli. I think we're gonna give you a separate spot, or we could do like South Park and just kind of edit in what you have to say and make.
No.
Make like a cartoon kind of.
Sorry, I went on about.
No.
And I appreciate you.
Sure.
I tried to give this short.
Okay. So Dan, do you want to have a chance to say your reflection? Okay, let's open it up to a couple more questions and we'll go from there.
I'll start eating this up while we're doing a couple more questions.
Does anyone want to raise their hand and ask a couple more questions? Any questions from the audience about the kind of the?
I came in late. So I want to, but like, I think I want to stay.
You ask now, I'm curious, morbidly curious. I want to get.
Well, I
captured
came in
on
late, so it might not quite make sense again.
Maybe it'll be.
I got sense.
So could you give an example then? So you said that the dream realm is gonna revolve around 9 through 6.
Yes.
But you said that most of it
7, 8, 9.
revolved around like 9. It's like the most biggest form of the dream.
Yeah,
So what would be like an example of 6?
6 is usually where you'll get information interpreted. It's like 6 is the kind of place where you can intentionally go if you end up lucid dream. And that's a really good place to get information as transmitted and kind of filtered down from other spheres. There's actually one sphere which isn't on. I mean, it goes right here in this kind of conspicuous spot in the middle. And it's a separate thing because it is technically just kind of like splashback from all the other spheres. It's where information is theoretically stored. And the best way to get information from that invisible sphere, which I will actually name drop, it's called Da'at, or knowledge. The best spot in this setup here is usually from 6, because it's the closest sphere connected to it. Like there's only 2 other spheres connected to Da'at. Oh, because it's also 6 is the only sphere which is in all 3 of the realms.
Right, sure.
Yeah, so it could be considered the most central. It also, interestingly enough, corresponds with the heart chakra.
There are a lot of layers to this.
Yeah, please, like, I might do like a workshop on it at some point. I could use that. I could use people asking me more questions about it, so I know what more questions to ask.
Yeah.
Oh, I love learning by having questions asked. Yeah, thank you all for showing up. Yeah, looking out like minutes away from
Congratulations.
Hey!
The magic of caffeine.
Perfect.
Hey, caffeine is an absolute wonder.
All right, so we'll do the transition to the open mic there. But I just want to thank you all for coming. I want to introduce Gideon to those people who may have walked in a little bit late. Gideon is part of the Illuminati. We have not yet decided it's spelled ALLUVINATI or NAUGHTY.
I like it. NAUGHTY.
And the other members of the Illuminati are Will, who created the Art for Truth Gallery, and also this lovely painter here. And the other members are Julian, who is still creating his space upstairs.
Yeah, we're the Bohemian Illuminati, not to be confused with the Bavarian Illuminati. It's not to be confused with the Bavarian Illuminati.
And then before we do this, the transition to the open mic, I also want to point out that Martin is here as the host or the MC of the open mic, but Martin is
Canadian.
also. It's a, oh, out, excuse me, out. But Martin is also the artist whose artwork you're looking at on that wall and on that back wall. We're really pleased to show Martin's artwork as well as Will's artwork, and then that wall is all Nikki Knapp. So we just had an art Friday, and it was a really fantastic experience, and we're gonna have more experiences like this. So that was a really neat conversation. Come back next week because we'll have really one of the most acclaimed artists in the Eugene community, Judd Turner.
I've
who's
heard
a
this
really
art
fantastic
series
sculptor.
called Squares, not for squares.
Oh, is it really? All right, okay, anyways, so we'll have Judge Turner next week, and we're continuing to have really great speakers, so thank you everyone for attending.